Have you ever been so angry you wanted to start a war? But it's not a war between nations that starts the story. It's a colossal clash of egos between two of the greatest Greek heroes. The story begins 9 years into the Trojan War. The Greek army is suffering from a terrible plague sent by the god Apollo. Why? Because the leader of the Greeks, King Agamemnon, has taken a Trojan priestess named Chrysis as his war prize. Her father, a priest of Apollo, begged for her return, offering a huge ransom. But Agamemnon, in his pride, rudely refused. So, Apollo unleashed his arrows of disease upon the Greek camp. This is where our main man, Achilles, the greatest warrior of them all, steps in. He calls an assembly and demands to know why the gods are so angry. The prophet Calchas reveals the truth. Agamemnon must return Chrysis to her father to appease Apollo. Now, Agamemnon is furious. He feels publicly humiliated. He agrees to return Chrysis, but only on one condition. He'll take Achilles' own war prize, a woman named Briseis, as compensation. This is a massive insult to Achilles' honor. It's like telling the star player he's not valued by the team. Achilles is absolutely enraged. He's so close to drawing his sword and cutting Agamemnon down right there, but the goddess Athena swoops in, invisible to everyone else, and calms him down. She promises him that his honor will be restored, and he'll receive glorious gifts in the future if he just holds back for now. So, Achilles sheathes his sword, but he's not done. He declares that he and his soldiers, the Myrmidons, will no longer fight for Agamemnon. Agamemnon, meanwhile, sends his men to take Briseis from Achilles' tent, and Achilles, honoring his promise to Athena, lets her go without a fight, though it breaks his heart. Furious and heartbroken, Achilles goes down to the seashore and prays to his mother, the sea goddess Thetis. He asks her to go to Zeus, the king of the gods, and beg him to help the Trojans, to push the Greeks back, to make them suffer, so that Agamemnon will finally realize how much he needs Achilles. Thetis agrees and promises to plead his case. So, what happens after that explosive argument between Achilles and Agamemnon? Well, things get complicated, and it all starts with a dream. Zeus, wanting to honor Achilles as he promised, decides to mess with Agamemnon. He sends a false dream, disguised as the wise old Nestor, to the Greek commander-in-chief. This dream Nestor tells that now is the perfect time to attack Troy. The gods are all on your side, victory is guaranteed. Agamemnon is fired up and ready to go. But instead of just ordering the attack, he gathers the entire Greek army and tells them, "This war is a disaster. We've been here for 9 years, and we've gotten nowhere. Let's just pack up our ships and go home." He thinks this will rally their spirits, that they'll refuse and demand to fight. The moment he finishes speaking, the soldiers let out a massive cheer. They are ready to go home. They drop everything and make a mad dash for the ships. It looks like the Trojan War is about to end right then and there. Odysseus, guided by the goddess Athena, grabs Agamemnon's royal scepter and runs through the crowds. He uses his sharp wit and powerful presence to shame, persuade, and sometimes even physically stop the men from leaving. He reminds them of the prophecies, the glory, and the shame of giving up. One soldier, a commoner named Thrasites, stands up and starts spewing insults at Agamemnon. It's a powerful moment of dissent, but Odysseus quickly shuts him down, even striking him with the scepter to remind everyone of the chain of command, and order is restored. With the army back in line, the Greeks prepare for battle. What follows is one of the most famous parts of the entire epic, the catalogue of ships. Homer gives us this incredible detailed list of every Greek contingent, their leaders, and where they came from. It's like a panoramic shot of the entire Achaean force, showcasing its immense scale and power. Then, the perspective flips, and we get a similar, though shorter, catalogue of the Trojan forces and their allies. It's an ancient roll call of heroes, setting the stage for the massive conflict to come. It's been 9 long years. The mighty Greek and Trojan armies are lined up, ready for another brutal day of battle. Paris, all decked out in a leopard skin, and he's shouting, "Anyone brave enough to face me?" From the Greek side, Menelaus, the king whose wife was stolen, he leaps from his chariot like a hungry lion spotting a deer. Seeing this, Paris, our so-called brave warrior, completely loses his nerve. He scurries back into the Trojan lines like he's seen a ghost. His older brother, the noble Hector, sees this and is absolutely furious. Stung by Hector's words, Paris mans up. He agrees to fight Menelaus in single combat. The deal: winner takes all, Helen and all the treasure. Meanwhile, up on the walls of Troy, Helen is watching the whole scene unfold. The old king Priam gently asks her to point out the famous Greek heroes. She identifies Agamemnon, the great Odysseus, and the giant Ajax. Down on the battlefield, the duel begins. Paris and Menelaus cast their spears. Paris's spear hits Menelaus's shield, but doesn't break through. Menelaus, however, throws his with incredible force. It pierces Paris's shield and armor, just grazing his side. Menelaus then draws his sword and shatters it over Paris's helmet. Furious, he grabs Paris by the helmet's crest and starts dragging him back to the Greek lines. Paris is choking, about to meet his end. Aphrodite, who favored Paris, she whisks him away in a magical mist and drops him right back in his bedroom in Troy. She then goes to Helen and tells her to go to him. Helen is angry at first, telling the goddess to go be with Paris herself, but Aphrodite's power is too strong to resist. She goes to the bedroom where she finds Paris, and, well, let's just say the war is far from over. The Greeks declare Menelaus the winner, and demand the Trojans honor the deal. But with Paris safe and sound, do you think they will? So, picture this. The gods are chilling on Mount Olympus, watching the drama unfold below. Zeus is kind of impressed with Menelaus's victory, and suggests maybe, just maybe, they can call this whole war off and let Helen go home. But Hera and Athena, oh no, they are not having it. They've got a personal grudge against Troy, and they want to see it burn. So, Athena gets a mission. She swoops down to the battlefield disguised as a Trojan soldier and finds a skilled archer named Pandarus. She whispers in his ear, tempting him with promises of glory and fame. "Hey," she says, "take a shot at Menelaus. You'll be a hero to all of Troy." Pandarus, completely fooled, takes the bait. He draws his mighty bow and lets an arrow fly straight at Menelaus. But Athena isn't completely heartless. She deflects the arrow just enough so that it doesn't kill him. But it does draw blood, and just like that, the truce is shattered. The Greeks are furious. Agamemnon rushes to his brother's side, and seeing Menelaus wounded, he unleashes a fiery speech. He rallies the Greek commanders, going from hero to hero, Odysseus, Diomedes, the mighty Ajax, praising the eager and shaming the hesitant. His words are like sparks on dry tinder, and the entire Greek army ignites with a fresh thirst for battle. The scene is set. 2 massive armies, filled with rage and spurred on by the gods, crash into each other like 2 torrential rivers. Spears shatter, shields buckle, and the ground itself groans under the weight of the conflict. The fragile truce is forgotten, replaced by the brutal, bloody reality of war. And this, my friends, is just the beginning of the carnage. The battle for Troy is raging, and the gods are picking sides. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, decides the Greeks need a champion. So, she finds the warrior Diomedes and basically flips his awesome switch to maximum. She gives him the power to see which figures on the battlefield are gods and which are mortals. Oh, and one more tiny instruction. Don't fight any gods. Unless it's Aphrodite. You can totally go after her. So, Diomedes, now glowing with divine power, wades into the Trojan ranks like a one-man wrecking crew. He's unstoppable. He takes down hero after hero. The Trojans send their best archer, Pandarus, to stop him. Pandarus lands a direct hit with an arrow, but Diomedes just shrugs it off and keeps fighting. He then hunts Pandarus down and ends his career permanently. Next, the great Trojan hero Aeneas steps up. Aeneas is the son of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Diomedes injures him with a massive boulder, and just as he's about to finish the job, Aphrodite herself swoops in to save her son. Does Diomedes remember Athena's instructions? You bet he does. He charges at the goddess of love and stabs her in the wrist. An immortal goddess, wounded by a mortal man. Aphrodite flees the battlefield, crying to the other gods on Mount Olympus. But Diomedes isn't done. He's so fired up that he even faces down Apollo, who has to warn him 3 times to back off. Finally, the god of war himself, Ares, who is fighting for the Trojans, comes for Diomedes, but Athena is right there with him. She guides Diomedes' spear, and it strikes Ares in the stomach. The god of war screams in agony and retreats to the heavens. So, in one single day of fighting, one mortal man, Diomedes, wounded 2 of the most powerful Olympian gods. It's one of the most incredible moments in the entire epic, and shows just how wild the Trojan War could get. The fighting has been brutal, and Hector, the greatest Trojan warrior, has briefly returned from the front lines. He's not here to rest, though. He's searching for his wife, Andromache, and their infant son, Astyanax. He finds them on the city walls, watching the battle with a sense of dread. Andromache pleads with him not to go back. She's already lost her father and brothers to the Greek hero, Achilles. She tells Hector, Hector, you are my father and my mother. You are my brother, and you are my loving husband. All her hopes and her entire world are tied to him. She begs him to stay and command the army from the safety of the walls, to not risk orphaning their son and widowing her. Hector's reply is heartbreaking. He tells her he understands her fears more than anyone, but he cannot shrink from his duty. He has a responsibility to his people, his city, and his honor. He knows Troy is doomed, and what pains him most is not his own death, but the thought of Andromache being taken as a slave by the Greeks after he is gone. Then, in a moment that has echoed through millennia, he reaches for his son. But the baby, Astyanax, is terrified. He cries and shrinks back from the sight of his father in his menacing, horse-haired helmet. In this instant, Hector is not a fearsome warrior, he is just a father. He laughs, takes off the helmet, and kisses his boy, praying to the gods that his son will grow up to be an even greater man than he is. He hands the baby back to Andromache, who takes him, laughing through her tears. It's a perfect, bittersweet image of love in a time of war. Hector then gently tells her to go home and attend to her own work, saying that war is the business of men. He puts his helmet back on and walks back to the battlefield, leaving his family behind, knowing he will likely never see them again. This scene gives us the heart of the Iliad. It reminds us that behind the epic battles and heroic deeds are real people with families, fears, and profound love. The fighting has been brutal, and the gods are getting antsy. Apollo and Athena, tired of seeing their favorite mortals get pummeled, decide to intervene. They put an idea into the head of Hector, the great Trojan prince: challenge one of the Achaean champions to a single combat. No armies, no chaos, just two warriors. Winner take all for the day. Hector, ever the hero, steps forward between the armies and issues the challenge. "Send me your best man," he roars. At first, the Achaeans are stunned into silence. Even their greatest heroes hesitate, facing Hector alone. That's a tall order. Finally, shamed by their fear, 9 of their greatest warriors step up, including Agamemnon, Diomedes, and both Ajaxes. To decide who gets the honor, they draw lots, and the lot falls to Ajax the Great. This guy is a mountain of a man, second only to Achilles in fighting prowess. The duel begins, and it is epic. Hector throws his spear, but it can't pierce the 7 layers of oxhide on Ajax's massive shield. Ajax hurls his spear with such force that it punches straight through Hector's shield and armor, nicking his side. They then go at it with swords and rocks. Ajax, being a literal giant, picks up a boulder and smashes Hector's shield, knocking him to his knees. Hector, quick as a flash, is back on his feet. The fight is incredibly close, a true clash of titans. But before a winner can be decided, heralds from both sides rush in. Night is falling. They declare the duel must end. Showing immense respect for each other, Hector and Ajax agree. They even exchange gifts as a sign of honor. Hector gives Ajax his silver-studded sword, and Ajax gives Hector his gleaming purple belt. They part as equals, promising to finish their fight another day. With the duel over, both sides agree to a temporary truce to bury their dead. It's a somber moment, a brief pause in the relentless war. The book kicks off with Zeus, the king of the gods, waking up on Mount Ida with a booming announcement. He lays down the law: no more meddling in the war. He forbids any god or goddess from helping either the Greeks or the Trojans. He even busts out his golden scales, and in a moment of high drama, he weighs the fates of the 2 armies. The scale tips, and it's bad news for the Achaeans. Their doom sinks low. To make his point crystal clear, Zeus unleashes a storm of thunder and lightning upon the Greek camp. Panic erupts. The once mighty Greek heroes, including Agamemnon and even the clever Odysseus, start retreating in terror. Only old Nestor stands his ground, but his horse is wounded, leaving him vulnerable. It looks like he's done for until Diomedes, ever the hero, swoops in to save him. Diomedes tries to rally the troops, but Zeus keeps hurling thunderbolts, making it impossible for the Greeks to advance. The message is clear. Today, victory belongs to Troy. With the gods on their side, the Trojans, led by the glorious Hector, push the Greeks all the way back to their ships. Hector is an absolute force of nature on the battlefield, and it seems like nothing can stop him. He's on the verge of setting the Greek fleet on fire, which would spell total disaster for them. Up on Mount Olympus, Hera and Athena are furious. They can't just sit by and watch their favorite mortals get crushed. They decide to defy Zeus and sneak down to the battlefield to help the Greeks. But Zeus, who sees everything, catches them in the act. He sends his messenger, Iris, to intercept them with a chilling warning: defy him, and he will unleash his full, terrifying power upon them. Realizing they're outmatched, the goddesses reluctantly turn back. As night falls, the fighting finally ceases. The Trojans, confident and victorious, camp out on the open plain, their watchfires lighting up the night like stars. They're ready to finish the job in the morning. For the Greeks, however, it's a night of despair and fear, trapped behind their defenses, their backs to the sea. The stage is set for a dramatic turning point in the war. What will happen next? Agamemnon, the leader of the Greek army, finds himself at the start of Book 9 of the Iliad. His best warrior, Achilles, is still sulking in his tent, and the Trojan army, led by the mighty Hector, is on the verge of burning the Greek ships and sending them all home in defeat. He suggests they all give up and sail home. Can you believe the nerve? But the other kings, like the wise Nestor and the brave Diomedes, aren't having it. They know there's only one person who can turn this tide: Achilles. Agamemnon offers an insane amount of treasure. Most importantly, he promises to return Briseis untouched, and even offers one of his own daughters in marriage. The chosen ambassadors are three of the most respected Greeks: Odysseus, the clever talker; Phoenix, Achilles' old mentor and father figure; and the mighty warrior Ajax. They find Achilles in his tent, not training for battle, but playing a lyre and singing tales of heroes. Odysseus steps up first, laying out Agamemnon's incredible offer, painting a vivid picture of all the riches and honor Achilles will receive. His response is one of the most famous speeches in all of literature. He unleashes all his pent-up rage and bitterness. He says he's done fighting for a king who doesn't respect him. What's the point of honor if it can be taken away so easily? He declares he's sailing home, and no amount of treasure can buy back his life or his pride. Next, Phoenix tries a more emotional approach. He reminds Achilles of how he raised him, telling stories from his childhood, begging him like a son to let go of his anger and save his friends. It's a tear-jerking appeal, but Achilles, though moved, still refuses. Finally, the straightforward Ajax speaks. He keeps it short and brutally honest. He tells Achilles he's being stubborn and dishonoring his friends who came to him in person. He basically says, people forgive murderers, but you can't forgive this one insult. He does offer a tiny concession. He won't leave, but he won't fight until Hector reaches his own ships. The greatest gifts and the most heartfelt pleas couldn't break Achilles' resolve. The Greeks are left in despair, realizing that their fate now rests on a knife's edge. All because of one man's wounded pride. The Greeks are in a really bad spot. They've been pushed back to their ships by Hector and the Trojan army, and morale is at an all-time low. Agamemnon, the leader of the Greeks, can't even sleep. He wakes up his brother Menelaus, and they decide they need intelligence. Who's brave enough to sneak into the Trojan camp and figure out their next move? Up steps Diomedes. I'll go, but I won't go alone. He needs a partner, someone cunning and quick on their feet. And who does he choose? None other than the master strategist himself, Odysseus, and slip out into the darkness like two wolves on the hunt. The Trojans have the exact same idea. Hector, wanting to know if the Greeks are planning a retreat, offers a magnificent prize: Achilles' own immortal horses to any man who will spy on the Greek camp. A Trojan named Dolon volunteers for the mission. He puts on a grey wolfskin and sets out. Diomedes and Odysseus spot Dolon first. They let him pass and then chase him down, trapping him. Terrified, Dolon spills everything. He tells them the Trojans' positions. He reveals a crucial weakness. The newly arrived Thracian allies, led by King Rhesus, are sleeping soundly, exhausted from their journey, and with them, a set of magnificent white horses, even finer than those of Achilles. After getting all the information they need, Diomedes makes a brutal decision and ends Dolon's mission permanently. They then proceed to the Thracian camp. What follows is a silent, terrifying raid. They take out King Rhesus and 12 of his men in their sleep, and, just as Dolon promised, they steal the spectacular horses. They ride back to the Greek camp not just with vital intelligence, but with a tangible prize that boosts everyone's spirits. The dawn breaks, and with it, the goddess of strife, Eris, unleashes a blood-curdling scream over the Achaean camp. Leading the charge is none other than Agamemnon, the king of kings. Dressed in dazzling armor, a gift from a foreign king, he cuts through the Trojan ranks like a wildfire. Terrified, are pushed all the way back to the gates of their own city. It looks like this could be the day the Achaeans finally break through. But Zeus sends his messenger, Iris, down to Hector. The message is clear. Wait until Agamemnon is wounded, then unleash your full might. And so, Hector waits. It doesn't take long. A Trojan spear finds its mark, piercing Agamemnon's arm. This is Hector's moment. With a booming war cry, he rallies his men and charges back into the fray. The tide of battle turns instantly. The Achaeans, who were just moments from victory, are now in a desperate retreat. In the midst of this onslaught, heroes like Odysseus and Diomedes stand firm. Diomedes even manages to wound Hector with a spear to the helmet, forcing him back momentarily. But their luck is about to run out. Paris, the same prince who started this whole war, is hiding. He draws his bow and lets an arrow fly, piercing Diomedes' foot and pinning it to the ground. Another Greek hero is out of action. Odysseus is now left completely alone. Surrounded, he fights with the heart of a lion, taking down several Trojans, but he too is wounded in the ribs and must be rescued. The Greek line is shattered. It's at this moment that Achilles, watching the disaster unfold from his ship, sends his dear friend Patroclus to find out what's happening. Patroclus runs to the medical tent, where he finds the wise old Nestor tending to a wounded healer. Nestor paints a grim picture of the Greek losses, and then, in a moment of desperate inspiration, he plants a seed in Patroclus's mind. He begs him, if Achilles will not fight, perhaps he will let you wear his armor. The Trojans will think he has returned, and it might just give us the breathing room we need to survive. He rushes back to Achilles, the words of Nestor echoing in his ears. The stage is set for a decision that will change the entire course of the war. Have you ever felt like you're up against an impossible wall? That's exactly where the Greeks find themselves in Book 12 of the Iliad. After Achilles stormed off, the Trojans have been on a roll, pushing the Achaeans all the way back to their own camp by the sea. A massive wall, a trench, and a line of sharpened stakes the Greeks built to protect their ships. The battle for this wall is absolutely epic. The Trojans, led by the mighty Hector, are trying to figure out how to get across. The clever Trojan advisor, Polydamas, sees a bad omen: an eagle dropping a snake and warns Hector, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't attack the wall." But Hector, fired up and ready for glory, basically says, "The only omen I need is to fight for my country." He's not letting anything stop him. The scene splits into a fierce five-front assault on the Achaean wall. It's chaos, with spears flying and heroes clashing. But the most legendary moment comes from two Lycian princes, Sarpedon and Glaucus, fighting for the Trojans. Sarpedon gives one of the most famous speeches in all of literature. He turns to Glaucus and says, "My friend, if we could live forever by avoiding this fight, I wouldn't be on the front lines. But, since death comes for everyone, let's go forward and win glory." With that, Sarpedon, powered by Zeus himself, charges the wall like a lion attacking a sheepfold. He rips a hole in the battlements, and though he's pushed back, he's opened the way. Then comes Hector. He finds a massive, pointed stone that no two ordinary men could lift. But filled with divine strength, he hefts it with ease, runs toward the main gates, and smashes them open. The gates splinter, the locks break, and Hector leaps into the Greek camp, his eyes blazing with fire. The Trojans pour in after him, and the terrified Greeks scatter, running for the safety of their ships. The wall has fallen, and it looks like it's all over for the Achaeans. What an incredible cliffhanger, right? It just shows you how one person's courage can change the tide of a war. All right, picture this. The battlefield outside Troy is an absolute mess. The Achaeans, our Greek heroes, are getting pushed back. Their wall is crumbling, and things are looking grim. Hector and his Trojan army are on fire, breaking through the defenses like it's nothing. It seems like all hope is lost. But wait, who's that watching from the misty peaks of Samothrace? It's Poseidon, the god of the sea, and he is not happy. He sees his beloved Greeks getting hammered, and Zeus, the king of the gods, has conveniently turned his back for a moment. This is Poseidon's chance. Disguised as Calchas, a wise old prophet, Poseidon zips down to the front lines. He finds the two greatest Greek warriors, named Ajax, and fires them up with divine strength. Suddenly, they feel invincible, their limbs light, their hearts pounding with courage. Poseidon tells them, "You two alone can save the Achaeans. Stand firm, fight back, and you can push even the mighty Hector back from the ships." With this newfound power, the two Ajaxes become an unbreakable wall. They rally the troops, and the tide of battle begins to shift. Poseidon, still in disguise, moves through the Greek ranks, inspiring warrior after warrior. He finds Idomeneus, the king of Crete, and fills him with a furious battlelust. Together, Idomeneus and his comrade Meriantz charge into the fray, cutting down Trojans left and right. The battle becomes a chaotic, swirling clash of bronze and bravery. Idomeneus is a force of nature, seeking out the best of the Trojan warriors. He clashes with heroes, taunts his enemies, and proves that even an older warrior has the heart of a lion. The Greeks, who were just moments from total defeat, are now fighting with renewed fury, inspired by the secret intervention of the sea god. And so, Book 13 leaves us on a knife's edge. The Trojans are stunned, their momentum is broken, and the Greeks are back in the fight, all thanks to a god who decided to bend the rules. What will happen when Zeus looks back? Hector and his Trojans are pushing them back to their ships, and it seems like all is lost. Watching from Mount Olympus, Poseidon is fuming, but Zeus has forbidden any gods from interfering. What's a frustrated goddess to do? Well, if you're Hera, you don't play by the rules. You rewrite the game. Hera hatches a plan so bold, so cunning, it's pure genius. Her target, the king of the gods himself, her husband, Zeus. She knows she can't beat him in a fight, so she decides to use a different kind of power. First, she goes on a full-on divine makeover. She bathes, anoints herself with ambrosial oil, and puts on her most dazzling immortal gown. She flies over to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and spins a little white lie about patching up a spat between two old gods. Aphrodite, ever the romantic, lends Hera her enchanted girdle, a magical accessory that makes the wearer completely irresistible. Hera then visits Hypnos, the god of sleep. She asks him to put Zeus into a deep slumber once she's distracted him. Hypnos is terrified, remembering the last time he tricked Zeus and nearly got thrown off Olympus. She offers him a golden throne and even promises him the hand of one of the Graces in marriage. It's an offer he can't refuse. With her plan in motion, Hera finds Zeus on Mount Ida, watching the battle. The moment he lays eyes on her, enchanted girdle and all, he's completely smitten. He's so overwhelmed with desire that he forgets all about the war, the Trojans, and his own decrees. He pulls Hera into a golden cloud to hide them from view, and just as planned, Hypnos swoops in and puts the all-powerful Zeus to sleep. With Zeus out of the picture, Hypnos zips down to the battlefield to tell Poseidon the coast is clear. Re-energized, Poseidon rallies the Achaean troops. A great roar goes up as they charge back into the fight. The tide of the battle turns dramatically. In a pivotal moment, Ajax hurls a massive stone at Hector, striking him in the chest and taking him out of the fight. The Trojans, seeing their leader fall, begin to panic and retreat. So, picture this. Zeus wakes up from his nap. His wife, Hera, tricked him into and he is absolutely furious. He looks down at the battlefield and sees the Trojans being pushed back, and worse, his favorite son Sarpedon is wounded. He immediately turns on Hera, threatening her and reminding her who's really in charge. He lays out his grand plan. The Trojans will rally, push the Achaeans all the way back to their ships, and only then will the tide turn for good. Zeus sends Iris, the rainbow messenger, with a message for Poseidon, who's been secretly helping the Achaeans. The message is simple: stop helping the Greeks, or else. Poseidon is indignant, but he knows better than to challenge the king of the gods, so he reluctantly withdraws from the battle. Next, Zeus sends Apollo to heal Hector, the great Trojan prince. Apollo breathes new life and strength into him. Reinvigorated, Hector charges back into the fight like a storm. The Achaean soldiers, who were just moments ago feeling victorious, are now terrified. Hector is unstoppable. He leads the Trojan army in a massive counterattack, and the Greeks break and run. The battle rages all the way to the Achaean ships. The Trojans are trying to set them on fire, which would mean total disaster for the Greek snow ships. No way home. The fighting is desperate and brutal. The great Ajax stands on the decks of the ships, a colossal figure fighting off Trojans with a massive sea pike, almost single-handedly preventing them from lighting the torches. But Hector is relentless. He grabs onto the prow of a ship, calling for fire, believing victory is finally within his grasp. And that's where Book 15 leaves us on a massive cliffhanger, with the Achaeans on the absolute brink of destruction. It's a powerful reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in war. The divine armor of Achilles, the greatest warrior alive, and his friend is about to charge into the most brutal war in history. That's exactly where Book 16 of the Iliad kicks off. For days, the Greeks have been getting hammered by the Trojans. Their ships are burning, their best fighters are wounded, and their morale is shot. Patroclus, Achilles' best friend and closest companion, can't stand to watch anymore. He goes to Achilles, tears streaming down his face, and begs him to rejoin the fight. Achilles, still nursing his grudge against King Agamemnon, refuses. So he offers a compromise. "Take my armor," he says. "Wear it, and the Trojans will think I've returned. It will give our men a chance to breathe." But he gives one crucial command: push them back from the ships. But do not, do not pursue them to the walls of Troy. Once the ships are safe, you come back. Patroclus agrees. He dons the legendary armor, and the transformation is stunning. Leading Achilles' elite soldiers, the Myrmidons, he storms onto the battlefield like a whirlwind. The Trojans are terrified. They see the famous armor and think Achilles has finally returned. They break ranks and flee in chaos. Patroclus is unstoppable. He's a blur of bronze and fury, cutting down Trojans left and right, including Sarpedon, a son of Zeus himself. He completely forgets Achilles' warning. Drunk on victory and the thrill of battle, he does the one thing he was told not to do. He chases the Trojans all the way back to the city walls. But this act of defiance seals his fate. The god Apollo, siding with the Trojans, intervenes. He strikes Patroclus from behind, knocking off his helmet and stunning him. A Trojan spearman wounds him, And then Hector, the Trojan prince, delivers the final, fatal blow. As Patroclus lies dying, he looks Hector in the eye and delivers a chilling prophecy. You may have defeated me, but your own death is not far behind. It will come at the hands of the great Achilles. And with those words, the stage is set for the ultimate tragedy and the inevitable, earth-shattering return of a grief-stricken Achilles. Patroclus, Achilles' dearest friend, is dead, slain by Hector. The first to reach him isn't a Greek, but the Trojan hero Euphorbus, who tries to strip the famous armor. But Menelaus, the Spartan king, stands over Patroclus like a mother cow protecting her first calf. And in a flash of bronze, Euphorbus is killed. Outnumbered, Menelaus is forced to retreat. And Hector triumphantly strips Achilles' magnificent armor from Patroclus' body, the greatest Trojan hero, now wearing the armor of the greatest Greek warrior. It's a massive morale blow. The Greeks, led by Menelaus and the mighty Ajax, form a wall of shields to protect Patroclus' remains. The battlefield becomes a brutal tug-of-war, a swirling vortex of spears, shields, and mud, all centered on one fallen hero. Even the gods are in on the action. Zeus himself looks down, filled with pity for the struggle. The horses of Achilles, immortal and magnificent, stand apart from the battle, weeping for their fallen driver, Patroclus. Back in the thick of it, Menelaus realizes someone has to tell Achilles the devastating news. Meanwhile, he and Marianthe finally manage to lift Patroclus' body and begin the slow, agonizing retreat back to the ships. Ajax and his men fight a desperate rearguard action, holding off the relentless Trojan assault wave after wave. It shows the true cost of war, where the struggle over a single fallen friend becomes a battle of epic proportions. The battlefield is a mess. The Trojans, led by the mighty Hector, are dominating. The Greeks are in full retreat, their best warrior, Achilles, still sulking in his tent over a dispute with Agamemnon. But then, the worst possible news arrives. A messenger, covered in dust and tears, reaches Achilles. Patroclus, his dearest friend, his brother-in-arms, has been killed by Hector. The reaction is devastating. Achilles lets out a cry so terrible that his mother, the sea goddess Thetis, hears it from the depths of the ocean. He pours dirt and ash over his head, tearing his hair, overcome with a grief so profound it shakes the heavens. This isn't just sadness, it's a storm of rage and guilt. He knows his refusal to fight led to Patroclus' death. Thetis rushes to her son's side, holding him as he weeps. He vows revenge. He doesn't care about his own life anymore. His only purpose is to make Hector pay. But there's a problem. Hector took Achilles' divine armor from Patroclus' body. He's weaponless. Thetis promises to get him a new set, even better than the last. She goes to Hephaestus, the god of the forge, the master craftsman of Olympus. What follows is one of the most famous descriptions in literature. Hephaestus creates a magnificent shield, a work of art depicting the entire world. It shows cities at peace and at war, farmers harvesting fields, people dancing, and the vast ocean surrounding it all. It's a symbol of all the life and beauty that war destroys. And as the divine smith hammers away, forging this incredible shield, a new Achilles is also being forged. An Achilles no longer driven by pride, but by a terrible, cold, and unstoppable need for vengeance. Thetis, his goddess mother, arrives with the magnificent armor forged by Hephaestus himself. It's a breathtaking sight, so divine that the Myrmidon soldiers can't even look at it directly. But Achilles, his eyes are fixed on one thing: vengeance for his fallen friend, Patroclus. His grief is a fire, and the new armor is the fuel. Achilles calls an assembly of the Achaean army. Standing before them, he publicly renounces his anger, toward Agamemnon. The quarrel over the girl Briseis, he declares, was a destructive folly that cost them dearly. It's a stunning moment. The greatest warrior of the Greeks is finally, officially, back in the fight. Agamemnon, not to be outdone, steps forward to accept the apology. He gives a classic non-apology apology, blaming a goddess, the spirit of delusion, for clouding his judgment. He swears he never laid a hand on Briseis, and orders his men to bring out the treasure trove of gifts he promised to Achilles, including Briseis herself. But Achilles is impatient. He scoffs at the gifts and the feasting. All he wants is to fight, to unleash his sorrow and rage upon the Trojans. He's a man possessed, driven by a single, all-consuming purpose. It takes the clever Odysseus to intervene. He wisely points out that an army fights on its stomach. The men must eat to have the strength for the battle ahead. Reluctantly, Achilles agrees, but he himself refuses to eat or drink. His grief is his only sustenance. As Achilles arms himself, donning the divine armor piece by piece, he feels an unstoppable power surge through him. He steps into his chariot and speaks to his immortal horses, Xanthos and Balios. He scolds them for leaving Patroclus to die on the battlefield. And then, something miraculous happens. The goddess Hera gives Xanthos the power of human speech. The horse replies, prophesying that Achilles' own day of doom is near, not due to any fault of the horses, but by the will of fate and a mighty god. Achilles is unfazed. He knows his fate. He knows that returning to battle means he will not return home. But hearing it from his horse doesn't deter him. He screams his defiance at the prophecy, whips the reins, and charges headlong toward the Trojan lines. A blazing star of death and destiny, ready to rewrite the war. Zeus, watching from Mount Olympus, he gives the gods permission to jump into the fight and help whichever side they want. Because he knows if Achilles is left unchecked, he might just tear down the walls of Troy himself, defying fate. So, the divine teams are chosen. Hera, Athena, Poseidon, Hermes, and Hephaestus side with the Achaeans. On the Trojan side, you've got Ares, Apollo, Artemis, Leto, Xanthus, and Aphrodite. The battlefield literally trembles as these cosmic powerhouses descend. Poseidon shakes the earth, and Zeus thunders from above. Achilles, burning with rage and grief for Patroclus, is a one-man wrecking crew. He's carving through the Trojan ranks, hungry for Hector. But first, he comes face to face with Aeneas, who's been goaded into the fight by Apollo. They taunt each other, trading epic family histories like they're at a very intense reunion. Aeneas throws his spear, but it just clangs off Achilles' new, god-forged shield. When Achilles retaliates, his spear pierces Aeneas' shield, but that's as far as it gets. It looks like the end for the Trojan hero, but Poseidon, even though he's on the Greek side, can't bear to watch him fall. He knows Aeneas is fated to survive and carry on the Trojan line. So, in a flash, he shrouds the battlefield in mist, whisks Aeneas away, and drops him safely at the edge of the fight. The gods are playing favorites and bending the rules. With Aeneas gone, Achilles is even more furious. He cuts down several Trojans, including one of Priam's sons, Polydorus. When Hector sees his brother fall, he can no longer stay back. Ignoring Apollo's warnings, he charges forward to confront Achilles. The moment we've all been waiting for is finally here. Spears fly, insults are hurled, but before a decisive blow can be landed, Apollo intervenes again, wrapping Hector in a thick mist and spiriting him away from certain doom. Achilles is left shouting at the empty air, with Achilles cornering the Trojan army at the river Xanthus, also known as Scamander. He splits their forces, driving one half back to the city and the other half into the swirling river. What follows is a massacre. In the middle of this chaos, he confronts Lycaon, a son of Priam, whom Achilles had captured and sold into slavery once before. Lycaon begs for his life, pleading that he's not Hector's full brother, but Achilles is deaf to his pleas. He tells him that before Patroclus died, he might have spared Trojans, but now every Trojan will pay. With that, he kills Lycaon and throws his body into the river, taunting him that not even the river will save him now. The river god, Scamander, is angered by all the bodies choking his waters. He rises up and speaks to Achilles, telling him to take his slaughter elsewhere. Achilles agrees, but only to drive the Trojans from the river, not to stop killing them. This defiance enrages Scamander, who swells his banks and unleashes a massive wave to drown Achilles. He's tossed and turned by the flood, crying out to Zeus, feeling an ignoble death is near. But the gods are watching. Poseidon and Athena appear to give him strength and encouragement, just as Scamander calls on his brother river Simois to help him finish Achilles. The goddess Hera intervenes. She sends Hephaestus, the god of fire, to fight the river. A spectacular battle of the elements ensues. Hephaestus unleashes a wall of flame that boils the river, evaporates the plains, and scorches the dead. The river god is literally on fire, begging for mercy. Hephaestus relents only when Hera commands him to. With the river subdued, the battle shifts to the gods themselves. Ares charges Athena, but she fells him with a large rock. Aphrodite tries to lead Ares away, but Athena strikes her down too. Poseidon challenges Apollo, but Apollo refuses to fight over mere mortals. It's a vivid picture of the gods' own conflicts, mirroring the war below. While the gods are distracted, the remaining Trojans flee back to the safety of their city. The entire Trojan army has retreated inside, all except one man, Hector, waiting. His heart torn between honor and survival. His aging parents, King Priam and Queen Hecuba, plead with him from the ramparts, begging their beloved son to come inside and save himself. But Hector's mind is made up, and his pride will not let him face them in shame. He resolves to face Achilles, for better or worse. Achilles, burning with rage over the death of his companion Patroclus, charges across the plain, his divine armor blazing like a terrifying star. For a moment, Hector's courage falters. The sheer, inhuman fury of Achilles strikes fear into his heart, and he does the most human thing imaginable. He runs. 3 times they race around the mighty city of Troy, a desperate chase between the greatest warriors of their age. It's a spectacle of gods and men, a blur of dust and flashing bronze. He stops, turns, and prepares to make his stand. He faces Achilles, ready to fight, and even proposes a pact that the victor will treat the loser's body with respect. Achilles, however, scoffs at the idea. There can be no pacts between them, he declares, any more than there can be between lions and men. The duel begins. Hector casts his spear, but it glances off Achilles' god-forged shield. He turns to his brother for another weapon, only to find he is alone. The goddess has vanished. In that devastating moment, Hector understands his fate. He has been deceived, and his end is near. Yet, he does not despair. He draws his sword and charges, determined to die with glory. But Achilles knows a fatal weakness in the armor Hector wears with a final, brutal thrust of his spear into an unprotected spot at the neck. Achilles brings the mighty Trojan prince down. Hector is defeated. With his dying breath, he begs Achilles to return his body to his parents for a proper burial. But Achilles, still consumed by grief and fury, refuses, promising a terrible fate for his fallen enemy. So, The mighty Trojan hero Hector has fallen, and Achilles has finally avenged his beloved friend, Patroclus. But vengeance isn't enough. Achilles wants to honor Patroclus in a way that will be remembered for all time. He organizes a massive funeral pyre, and then, to celebrate his friend's life and spirit, he hosts an epic series of athletic competitions. Think of it as the original, ancient Olympics, but with much higher stakes and a lot more drama. First up is the chariot race, the main event. All the biggest names are competing: Diomedes, Menelaus, and even Antilochus, the clever son of old Nestor. The race is pure chaos and excitement. Athena helps her favorite, Diomedes, while Apollo, still angry at Achilles' side, tries to sabotage him. There's a crash, heated arguments over the finish line, and Achilles himself has to step in to play peacemaker, showing a surprisingly calm and kingly side we haven't seen much before. But the games don't stop there. We get a brutal boxing match, where one champion knocks out his opponent with a single, devastating punch. Then there's a wrestling match between the two greatest warriors left, the mighty Ajax and the cunning Odysseus. They're so evenly matched that Achilles has to call it a draw. We also see a foot race, a duel with spears, and even an archery contest. Through it all, Achilles isn't competing. He's the host, the master of ceremonies, generously giving out incredible prizes from his own treasures. It's a powerful moment. We see Achilles not just as a rage-filled warrior, but as a leader, a friend, and a man grappling with immense grief. These games are his way of saying goodbye, of channeling his sorrow into something that celebrates life, strength, and camaraderie. Achilles has been absolutely consumed by rage and grief over Patroclus' death. Well, in Book 24, that raw emotion is still churning. He's been desecrating Hector's body daily, dragging it around Patroclus' tomb, but Apollo steps in, protecting the body from damage and urging divine intervention. The gods themselves are growing weary of Achilles' relentless cruelty. Zeus finally sends Iris to tell King Priam of Troy that he must go to Achilles and ransom his son's body back. Talk about a daunting task, right? Imagine the courage it took. Priam, an old king, grieving deeply for his beloved son, decides he will face the man who killed Hector and has been dishonoring his corpse. With divine guidance from Hermes, disguised as a friendly young man, Priam makes his perilous journey into the Achaean camp, directly to Achilles' tent. And here's where the true magic happens. Priam enters, kneels, and kisses Achilles' hands, the very hands that killed his son. He appeals to Achilles not as an enemy, but as a fellow human being who has lost a loved one. He reminds Achilles of his own father, Peleus, who will one day grieve for him. This shared experience of loss and the fragile nature of life on Earth creates an unexpected bridge between these two sworn enemies. Achilles, who has been unyielding in his anger, is deeply moved. He weeps with Priam, not just for Patroclus and Hector, but perhaps for the futility of it all, for the common sorrow that binds them. It's a moment of profound empathy and reconciliation. Achilles finally agrees to release Hector's body, grants a truce for the funeral, and even offers Priam comfort and hospitality. The poem ends not with a grand battle, but with the funeral of Hector, a somber and respectful return to humanity amidst the brutality of war. If it's as compelling as I do, please hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more epic stories and literary insights. Thanks for watching.